to my Flagstaff home. Today what I'm going to tell you about is one of the things that I love making in the summer to eat, and that is stuffed squash blossoms. So it's really wonderful because while you're waiting for your garden to start producing and getting ready to harvest things, you've got these blossoms that are blooming all over your yard if you're growing squash. And you can actually eat those. Now there are a few tips I'm going to give you about which ones to eat and which ones not to eat and all this. You don't want to destroy the harvest that you're going to have with your squash plants, and so you kind of have to be careful about which blossoms to pick. Now you can do this with summer squash or winter squash, it doesn't really matter. They have those big old blossoms on them. Now let me just explain a couple of things first here before I show you how to make this recipe, because I don't want to destroy your harvest of your squash in your yard. All right, there are two kinds of flowers on a squash plant. There are male flowers and female flowers. You can tell the difference because the male flowers grow on the end of a long stem, and the female flowers, if you look at the base of them, they'll have a little baby squash at the bottom of it. Now, at the very beginning, when your plant first starts to put out blossoms, they'll all be male. That's just what squash plants do. They put out a bunch of male flowers and no female flowers. I don't know why they do that, but there is no purpose for those flowers, at least for your harvest anyway. I took a gardening class last summer. My professor, who was a botanist, said, there's no reason to leave those on, on the plant. You can pick away. So when they first start putting up those male blossoms, you can go ahead and take those for doing your stuffed squash blossoms. And then when you start to see that some of your blossoms have little baby squashes at the end of them, do not pick those. Do not pick a female blossom. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. You can eat them just fine. But if that female blossom does not get fertilized, that little tiny baby squash will just shrivel up and fall off. And so defeats the purpose there. But what you'll notice a lot of times is you might have a female blossom that's opening and you'll have several male blossoms. They don't all need to be there, so you can take some of those too. But if you have a male blossom that's opening and you have a female one that looks like it's about to open, don't take that male flower, otherwise you're not going to get the female flower fertilized. So anyway, just be careful, look around, anticipate whether a blossom's going to be opening soon and whether you need that male flower to pollinate the other one. And so anyway, yeah. But then you can start picking those blossoms. If you don't have tons and tons of squash plants in your yard, you may only get a couple of blossoms at a time until you get to a certain point in the summer when they're just kind of going crazy. But so you can hang on to them, but if you just throw them in a bag and put them in the refrigerator, after a day or two, or a couple of days, they'll start getting, well, they get moisture inside the bag and then they start to get, just not good. They wilt and it's just not the same thing. So what I do is I just take a little piece of paper towel, stick it in a Ziploc bag, and then I put the blossoms in over a couple of days. And then when I have as many blossoms as I want, then I'm ready to go ahead and make my stuffed squash blossoms. This recipe is fairly easy. Probably the most complicated thing involved in it is getting the mixture inside the blossom, and then of course it involves frying, so there is that. But it doesn't use a lot of ingredients. You've got your squash blossoms, of course. You can either use cream cheese or ricotta cheese. I put in thyme and garlic, salt and pepper, and then I make a little mixture for the batter. So I put in an egg and some milk, and then another little container with some flour so I can dip that in and fry it. But I'll show you all that stuff, and this is just really yummy, and my husband and I can hardly wait every summer for those blossoms to appear so we can have this. We've already eaten it twice this summer and had quite a big batch the other night for just 2 people, so let me go ahead and show you that. It isn't easy to get enough squash blossoms in one day to eat them, and so I discovered that you can actually save them up. And the best way I've found to do this is to go out to the garden and get the blossoms that are available on a particular day. You can do this, and what I have done is I've just taken these and put it in a Ziploc bag with a piece of paper towel in it to absorb the moisture, because if you don't do that, then they start to get kind of icky. So I picked some of these yesterday and some today, And then I'm not gonna be able to make them tonight, but I'll probably make them tomorrow night. And so now I have enough. But before I did this, I rinsed them out, rinsed them off on the outside and rinsed out the inside. Check inside to make sure there aren't any bugs. I had ants in some of them, and so I wanted to make sure that I shook them really well to get the ants out. And then I prop them up on a piece of paper towel. I'll show you what that looks like. And then you want to make sure that they're nice and dry when you're ready to use them. After you rinse your squash blossoms, an easy way to dry them out, you can kind of pat them dry on the outside, but then you can also open up the petals and stand them up on a piece of paper towel, and that will help them to dry out nicely. So in addition to the squash blossoms, what you need is you can use ricotta cheese if you want to, but I have some whipped cream cheese here. You're also gonna need some garlic. You could mince it yourself. I'm gonna use it out of a jar because it's fast. Then you're gonna need some thyme, and then in addition to these things, you're gonna need some vegetable oil for frying, and then you're gonna need an egg and some milk, as well as some flour to make the batter for frying the blossom. So what I did is I mixed together about a half a cup of cream cheese, a teaspoon of the minced garlic, and then I started with a teaspoon of thyme, but didn't seem like enough, so I put in another teaspoon. And then I seasoned it with salt and pepper, so you can really kind of play with the flavors until it's just what you want. And so now I'm going to use this mixture to stuff some blossom. Okay, so I just took a blob of the cream cheese on my finger and stuffed it into the bottom of this blossom here. You don't need to fill it all the way out to the end, because then I just find that when you fry it, it all comes kind of leaking out and stuff. So I put it just in the bottom, and this top part will be nice and breaded and everything, and it will taste good even without the filling in it. But so anyway, I'm gonna do this with each of the blossoms. So that batch of the mixture was just about right to fill up these 13 blossoms. So if you have fewer than this, then of course you can just adjust the amount of cream cheese and all that stuff that you're putting in. The teaspoon of garlic made this pretty garlicky. I just tasted the mixture. So you could cut back a little bit, but I like garlic, so I thought this will be good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and make my batter and start heating the oil. So I put 1 egg and about a half a cup of milk and whisked it together over on this side, and on this side you can see I'm already done doing this, but I put some flour and salt and mixed that together, and then I took the squash blossoms, rolled them in the liquid mixture, then rolled them in the flour mixture, and now I'm bringing my oil up to temperature, and as soon as it gets to 350, it'll be the perfect temperature for frying them. And you put them in there, kind of move them around a little bit to make sure that they get fried on all sides, and then remove them and put them on some paper towel, which I have ready over here, just for kind of draining off some of that oil. This is the first batch that I took out. You want to put them in the oil and keep them there until they're lightly browned. And then you want to make sure before you put in another batch that you bring the oil back up to temperature. So mine was significantly below 350, the oil, and so I had to wait until it came back up to put this batch in. Otherwise they would have been really soggy. So I'm just going to flip these around in here until they're lightly browned. And there they are. Those are all of the blossoms ready to eat. Well, all of the blossoms minus one, because I already ate one. But yeah, they're really yummy, lightly crunchy, really great flavor, and you should give it a try. It's not too tough. Well, that's that. Doesn't that look yummy? And it was. They were so tasty, and I just sit there and just, munch them down. Now, when we very first pulled those out of the fryer, and then you kind of drain them on the paper towel, you can get to the point where you feel like the outside feels like it's cool enough, still warm, but cool enough to bite into, but the inside, the cream stuff inside will still be pretty hot, so be careful about that. But you also do not want to serve these cold. because it's just not as crunchy, it's just not as good. So you want to be serving these right after you get them out of the fryer, give them just a little bit of time to cool down and then munch away. You can dip them in something if you want to, like an aioli sauce or something like that, but you really don't need to. There's so much flavor in these, so really, really yummy, and I hope you will give it a try. If you go over to my blog at myflagstaffhome.com, I'll have the recipe for this. The coordinating blog post will be linked in the space below, so I hope you'll go over there and check that out. Let me know if you give it a try, and I'd love to know what you think about it. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, just hit that button right there. YouTube will let you know when I upload new videos. It's just a couple times a week, and I hope I'll see you again on my Flagstaff home. Thanks for watching, you guys. Bye-bye.